Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hockey Writers premiere episode of our draft ranking show. Hopefully, we're going to be doing a whole bunch of these over the next couple of months. And we are joined here today. First off, I'm Greg Boysen. I'll be your host moderator for this today's discussion. We're joined by our resident draft experts. No pressure, but you guys are experts, so you're going to have to deal with it. We have Matthew Zator checking in, Peter Baracchini, and Andrew Forbes. Hello, everybody. How you guys doing today?
Great. How are you, Greg?
Good.
Doing great.
Good. We're doing all right. Let's just get right to it. We've got a goofy season. It's been a little tougher. Last year's draft wasn't so bad because I think everybody had everything they needed on all the prospects before the shutdown. But this year's been different, to say the least. Right now, the 2021 NHL Entry Draft is scheduled for July 23rd, 24th. But as we know, living in COVID world, that can change at any time. But about a month later than we're used to having the draft. And this is the time of year where teams usually and fan bases start looking ahead, especially those that know that they're not playoff bound. They start saying, hey, how many more games do we have to lose to get that number one pick, and who can we get if we land it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. It's never too early to talk about rankings. So all three of you guys have recently released your draft rankings, your first batch of rankings. So let's go around the panel, and you guys can share who you have as your top 5 prospects and who you would take number 1 overall right now if you had the luxury of having that pick at your expense. Doesn't necessarily have to be the guy you ranked number 1 in your rankings, but who's your preferred number 1? Matthew, we'll start with you. What do you got as your top 5, and who do you take number 1?
Well, I know my top 5 is probably going to change in the next rankings over the last month or so, but when I released my rankings, I had Matt Beniers leading the way at number 1, Brant Clark coming in at 2, Kent Johnson, Jesper Wallstad, one of the better goaltenders in the draft, William Eklund rounding out the 5. And for number 1 overall, I'm going with Matt Beniers. I did have him as number 1. I'm still going. I would choose him number 1 overall just because of his intense, his two-way play. He's dominated in Michigan so far, and he doesn't seem to be slowing down. So how he played in the World Juniors, he was probably one of the best young players on a U.S. team that was pretty stacked. So I would definitely go with Beniers as number 1, and those 5 are, I mean, any of the number 1 pick is just so up in the air this year. And you look at, there's a few other guys that could go number 1. We'll talk about our risers later on, but yeah, the 5, you could go any number of those, and even past the top 5, you could have a number 1 pick. So it's going to be an interesting draft as it gets going here.
Yeah, that's something that's definitely different this year than in past years. There's no Connor McDavid or Austin Matthews out there. There's no consensus number 1 pick. So at least not at this point. There's still a little bit of time in the season for somebody to kind of separate themselves, but that makes these type of discussions so much more fun because we're not just going to sit here and talk about the same guy. Andrew, what's who you got in your top 5? And then if you had number 1, who's your guy?
So I have Matthew Beniers at number 1. I got William Eklund at number 2, Simon Edvinsson at number 3, Owen Power at number 4, and Luke Hughes at number 5. I think if I'm just any average GM, I'm taking Matty Beniers number 1 for most of the same reasons that Matt said. Obviously, he's got the IQ, he's got the hockey IQ, the way he sees the game, he opens up the ice for his teammates. He's just an all-around 200-foot guy. Of course, he's got ways that he can improve his game, but I mean that's going to come with experience and development. But it's interesting because if I were a GM of, say, a team out there, like you kind of look at obviously this isn't going to happen, but if the Maple Leafs were to take number 1 pick, you're going to be looking at it possibly a guy like Jesper Wallstad going number 1 because, it's a team that needs a goaltender. They've got nothing in the pipeline. Anderson's a free agent this year. So like Matt said, I mean, this year's so up in the air. There's no, consensus number 1. I mean, I think there's about 10 guys you could go number one with, and none of them would be wrong. It'll all depend on when we look back at it in 5 years and, see who got it right and who didn't.
Yeah, for sure. I think this year's number one pick is going to be based on more on need than just best player, as it normally is. FYI, Beniers is making you two guys look pretty smart. He had a natural hat trick last night for the University of Michigan. So he is definitely pumping your tires out there in Ann Arbor. Peter, you're the only one that didn't have Mr. Beniers as your number one. So in your face from Maddie last night. But let's go over your top 5 right now.
Yeah, he's really putting me in my place right now. But no, even like before the rankings came, like my January rankings came out, like he was in really deep conversation, and just based on like how deep the defense pool was, I went with top 3 with Brant Clark, Carson Lambos, and Owen Power 1, 2, 3. Beniers at 4, and then Simon Edvinsson at 5. So I was very defense heavy in my top 5 based on what could have happened. And like you guys said, it's a really odd time. Teams may be drafting on need as opposed to, best player available. But I'm thinking that if the OHL didn't extend so long, and they're still talking about starting the season up, if they would have started up in maybe October, November, same time as the QMJHL, if they did it safely, we could have seen Brant Clark, tear it up and get more of a genuine idea of where he could go. But he's playing really well overseas in the Slovak men's division. So the fact that he has 7 points in 17 games, I believe, is a pretty good sign that he's holding his own. Some defensive issues here and there, but yeah, if I had to pick my number one right now, it probably wouldn't be Brant Clark based on what's changed since then, but most likely to not just make myself look smart, but to echo, the way that Matt and Andrea said, Beniers has just looked flawless out there. I mean, he's just an absolute hound on both ends of the puck. He's smart. He knows where to pick his areas on the ice. And I think he is not necessarily the consensus, but probably leading towards that number one spot right now.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong with him right now. So a team that needs a forward is, we can say he's the top forward heading into the draft at this point, with his two-way game and his offensive abilities. And my personal opinion, if I'm a GM, you can never have in today's game too many mobile puck-moving offensive defensemen on your team. That's why I think the temptation of a Beniers, I might overlook that slightly and go with an Owen Power, his teammate in Michigan. But when you look at that roster Michigan has right now, I mean, how anybody's beaten them this year blows my mind. But when you think of what they've got on their guys, I mean, I think they've got 3 top 10 picks on their roster right now with Beniers and Power, and we mentioned Johnson, and then you have guys like Bordelot and Brisson who were picked last year. They're pretty stacked there, so watch out for them come Frozen Four time for sure. So Matthew, you had mentioned a couple minutes ago talking about risers. You guys, even though this has been but definitely a strange and unique season, most of our top draft picks have gotten to play their fair share of games, not like we're used to, especially in the Canadian junior ranks. Those guys would have 50 or 60 games under their belt by now. But we've seen enough to kind of figure out what's going on. So who's the one prospect you think has done himself the most favors by the way he's played this year, who's gone up your board since you first started ranking these guys? And now when you're going to come out with your next set of rankings, might make the biggest jump. So who's your biggest riser? Andrew, we'll start with you.
I don't know if I really have a biggest riser. I think guys like Kent Johnson moved up my list from the start of the season. Again, you mentioned it, Michigan. I mean, I don't think we've seen this kind of dominance from an NCAA team in terms of the first round of the NHL draft in a number of years. I looking back, I can't even remember the last time we've seen something like this. But that being said, a guy like Corson Coleman's is making a jump in the AJHL. I think the AJHL gets a lot more credit nowadays than it used to. So I would probably say Corson Coleman's is making a case for himself and could see a jump into maybe the top 20. Right now I've got him 22, but come next rankings could jump into the top 20.
Okay, Peter, who's climbing the charts on your ranking list right now?
Two, and I think these two, in addition to someone that I'm not going to mention, Chaz Lucius and Cole Sillinger, probably have like round up the top 5 shots in this draft, in Simon Robertson and Brennan Othman, both of which just find the puck and find the lane so easily. They have a powerful shot in the release that's, again, you want to not necessarily to rank the top 5 shots, but I think it matches that of the Lucius, and we've seen the way that Cole Sillinger has been playing and tearing it up in the USHL right now. That right now, Othman that I have 18 and Robertson 25 could definitely rise up very quickly. And teams looking for that offensive punch, that offensive weapon on the wing. I think both of them can be that kind of player where not necessarily in the ranks of like an Austin Matthews or Ovechkin, but to be a setup man or like the finisher on a top power play, because they got a powerful shot and really good accuracy.
Okay, and Matthew, who's your shooting star right now in the draft world?
I want to say Matthew Coronado, but he's already high on my rankings. That I don't know if I can rise him too much more to go into the top 5 or up. But I'm going with Mason McTavish. He's playing in Switzerland right now. Just had his first pro hat trick out there, and now has 5 goals in 9 games and 7 points in those 9. He's trying to kind of put it together and had a heck of a season in the OHL last season. He could move that when the OHL finally gets going, no matter how many games they will play. He could use that to kind of boost his rankings even more. I had him at 23rd. I can see him going into the top 20. When my next rankings but yeah, I'm going with Mason McTavish. He's got a heck of a shot. He's a big forward. He goes to the net. He's great at tipping pucks, and just from his highlights from last season and what he did last season in the OHL, I think he's going to be a heck of a pick, depending on where he actually goes towards the end when the draft actually gets going. I think he's going to have a chance to get into that top 20 portion of the first round.
You mentioned Coronado there. I'm a huge fan of his. He actually just became the Chicago Steel's all-time leading goal scorer last night with a couple of goals, and he's going to add on to that record a lot before the end of the season. Chicago Steel, I'm thankful they're here in my area. Man, we talked about Michigan, but what a as far as United States junior hockey programs go, it doesn't get any better than the Steel. They have been a NHL draft pick juggernaut machine for the last 5 or 6 years. They've been just pumping out players. I'm shocked that their general manager Ryan Hardy is actually still at that level and hasn't been. I'm surprised an NHL organization hasn't scooped him up yet, but that I'm sure is coming in the near future. So on the flip side, we talk about risers. As guys rise, that means guys got to fall. So let's talk about a guy that you think has dropped down your list. Not necessarily sometimes anything that he can control. Could be an injury, could be a lack of games, depending on what league he was supposed to play in, or it could be a fact that he's just hasn't. He's been disappointing on the ice. So, Peter, we're going to start with you. Who is going the opposite direction on your rankings right now?
One considerably fell out of my top 32, Aiden Hreshuk from the U.S. National Development Team. He had a promising start. It's just, for me, some inconsistencies in his game just really wasn't there with his decision-making, and is kind of disappointing because I kind of really liked him to still be in that first-round conversation, maybe even just slightly fall out into the start of the second round. And Zachary Leroux from the Halifax Mooseheads. And it's not a knock against his offensive skill set, and I do like gritty players, but he takes that to the limit sometimes, and he got suspended twice this season. So if he could try and get that in check, he could rise up. But, that's not necessarily a big exclamation mark for a player. It's just something that you want to consider, considering that he does have the skill, and then maybe sometimes the emotions get the best of him at times. But he's someone that could possibly be, he can still be a top 20 pick. It's just maybe at this point, not so much.
Okay, Matthew, who you think is trending in the wrong direction these days?
He's had a big drop from last season and the draft. Is Carson Lambos is he was in the conversation of the top 3, and a lot of us don't have him in the top 5 now. And he's 11th right now on my rankings. I kind of, there's a few other guys that have may even gone past him now. And not saying he's not going to become a top pairing defenseman in the future, but he's struggled to kind of establish his same game that he had last season in with overseas in Finland. And I mean, it could be enough that he's playing in a bigger league. But I mean, for a guy that's supposed to be in the top tier of the draft, I think he should be showing a bit more out there. I think in a league like that, I would think that he would kind of stand out. But in my opinion, I think he hasn't stood out enough to be, in the conversation of a top 3 that he was supposed to be in the past. So, not saying he won't be drafted in the first round, and he could be wrong, and a team drafts him he could drop out of the first round to the second and become a top tier defenseman and be a steal. So, we'll see when he kind of comes back, because when the leagues get going again, he'll get back to playing the level he's supposed to be right now. But like I said, I think he should be kind of dominating a little more than he has been.
Okay, and Andrew, who's your faller right now?
I know this is going to come across as probably one of the more obvious fallers, but a guy that at the beginning of last season was ranked number 1, and Peter and I have talked about it. Matt was on our show this week, and he talked about it a little bit. But Atu Ratti, right now I've got him ranked 10th, and it's not even a knock on his game. I mean, he is an inconsistent player. He doesn't seem to put streaks together. He's not the same player that maybe people were seeing early on, into last year. But I think players below him are starting to get noticed more. And I think that's where maybe it's a detriment to him, because he's going to fall outside that top 15, in my opinion. And like Matt said, it could be a case where he ends up being a steal at some point later in the first round into the second round. But at this point in time, you're just not hearing his name as much anymore, and he's a guy that has really fallen off the map.
Okay, yeah, that's the thing. A lot of these guys, they'll fall down in rankings, and sometimes it's not because they're playing bad. It's just that because so many other guys who were originally ranked below them are playing better. And that could lead to one of these really talented players, falling into the lap of a more competitive team later in the round. So that's always the fun thing about doing these rankings, is just you never know how it's going to shake out. We'll take a second here before we get to our next topic, just to pause, just to remind you, if you're watching on our Facebook page, please click the like button before Xing out. And if you're over there on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel, please subscribe. Therefore, you'll never miss any of our great and growing repertoire of live shows going on now. We've got all kinds of stuff coming your way, different teams being covered. We're hopefully going to be doing more of these. So hit like and subscribe, and you'll always know when a new episode drops. Plus, you can see there all of our Twitter handles. We're all very active on Twitter. Please, if you want to stay up to date, give us a follow on Twitter. Follow the Hockey Writers on Twitter as well, and you won't miss a thing. Basically, what I'm telling you is make us your top source when it comes to all things NHL draft. Forget all those other sites. Hockey Writers is where you want to be. All right, let's move on. The top of the draft always gets the most attention, rightfully so. That's where the best players allegedly are found. But there's always, you look at the rosters in the NHL right now, you see guys that are 4th, 5th, later round picks, and you go, wow, how did they drop? What was everybody thinking? So who's a prospect that isn't even on your rankings, probably shouldn't be. We want to talk about later rounds. So who's a guy that you've kept your eye on? He hasn't cracked your top 2 round rankings yet, but could be one of these diamonds in the rough, could be one of these late round steals that one day you go, wow, how was he taken in the 5th round. Andrew, we'll start with you on our diamond in the rough discussion.
I'm going to go with somebody in my second round only because I think he's overlooked a lot. But Scott Morrow, I'm a huge fan of Scott Morrow. I think he doesn't get enough credit in a draft that's already filled with defensemen, and obviously playing at Shattuck, St. Mary's, he's a guy that that's another place that is just a prep school that's just pounded out NHL star after NHL star. And he's set to play at I believe it's North Dakota in the University of North Dakota in 21-22. So 31 points in 22 games. He's a puck moving guy. Doesn't mind getting in the grime areas, has 26 penalty minutes to go along with his 31 points. So a guy that really kind of plays at all aspects, has the intangibles to be kind of a go-to guy. And I think he has the ability to be a top pairing guy. Like I said, I've got him late second round. So, I mean, he could fall as far as, early third, mid third round. So, but he's a guy that I would definitely keep my eye on if you're looking at a guy that could be a top pairing, maybe a top 4 defenseman, in a few years.
Well, and if you're right, then we can hear Pierre Maguire tell us Alnasium that he played at Shattuck St. Mary's. That's his favorite thing to mention in the whole world. But that pipeline from St. Mary's to UND, that's produced a lot of world-class talent over the years. You guys, further back, guys like Zach Parisi did that route. You had guys from, Jonathan Taves did that. So it's a successful way to make it to the top. So we'll definitely keep our eye on him. Peter, who do you like as one of these, later round success stories?
I am going to say, I'm torn between 2 right now, but I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to say Evan Naus from the Quebec Remparts. He is someone that really caught my eye just recently, and I am really loving his play as a two-way defenseman. He's got really great size, and he's got really great speed to go along with that. He's got great hands. He's very patient, and he always knows when to pick his routes of when to move up or when to make a strong outlet pass. And to me, it wouldn't be. I would have put him as another riser, but I could only pick 2 at that moment. So I'm going to try and mix this and make him a third riser. But he could probably rise up in that regard as well because he's just so consistent, and I'm just really loving his game right now.
Okay, and Matthew, who's your pick for late round success?
I've got him in the late second round, but Hugo Gabrielson, Swedish defenseman, he's ranked a lot lower, and I've got him higher up than a lot of places. A lot of places have him in, as late as the 4th round area. And what he's doing out in Sweden right now, he's great passer. His advanced stats are off the charts. He creates a lot of shot attempts. He's not the best defensive player, but has a lot of offensive potential in his game. And I think he's going to be a guy that will be drafted in the 3rd, 4th round, but be able to kind of be that top 4, could even be a top 4 defenseman in the future because of that. Advanced stats are all the rage right now, and how defensemen are evaluated. And for a guy that can create a lot offensively, even if he's not putting up a ton of points, but a guy that can create a lot of offensive opportunities, that's a huge thing for a defenseman in the game right now. And I think he's going to be a surprise when we get a few years down the road.
For sure. Yep. A lot of guys out there, and I'm sure as we get closer to the draft, you guys will probably have some more ideas of some of these guys that could be surprises or, late round success stories. Kind of piggyback off of that that topic. I'm going to give you guys a chance to maybe become future internet sensations. We're going to keep this clip, and maybe in 5 years you can say, hey, I was the first guy that told you he was going to be really good. And we'll say, remember when I raved about him on the Hockey Writers? Who is the prospect that you feel isn't quite getting the props or the attention that he deserves. Some guy that for whatever reason, be it just maybe he's on a super talented team and he's getting overshadowed by, some top rated picks. But who's that guy you want to give some love today and attach your name to in all his future endeavors? No pressure. Matthew, we'll start with you on this one.
Here's a guy that I haven't. He's not in my first 2 rounds. Recent discovery by me and Logan Mailloux. I don't know if it's Sam. He's not saying his name right. I don't know. He's playing the London Knights last year. He's playing over in Sweden, the Hockey Atan League and SJ Legion. Probably said that wrong too. But he's a defenseman, has 7 goals, 15 points in 19 games right now. And the one thing about defensemen, even if a lot of the young, a lot of the smaller guys are having success, like the Quinn Hughes and guys like that, you still need a big, strong defenseman. And he's that. He's he's still a great skater, but big, strong guy. And, guy that's on loan over in Sweden and developing his game. I think he's going to be a guy that's could, rise up into the second round and even into the first, who knows. But I think if he comes back to the OHL and keeps going with what he's doing, that's a lot of points playing in a league that, maybe a lower league, but, for a young guy like that to put up that many points playing in a league that has a lot of older players, I think says a lot, especially for a defenseman. But keep an eye on him.
And Andrew, who's the guy you wanna give a little love to today that no one's talking about?
I'm going to stick with the theme of, I guess, this draft and somewhat this show. But I've got a right-handed defenseman, Ty Gallagher, playing for the U.S. national team, the under-18 team. Guy, this kid's 6 feet, 190 pounds. 16 points in 33 games. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 9 goals for a defenseman. Just again, not getting maybe as much credit because he's playing for the national team. But that being said, this is a guy that, one, he's a right-handed defenseman. We know as much as anybody how hard they are to come by at times. I just think he's a guy that should be kept an eye on. I've got him ranked 102nd right now. So, you're talking outside the first 3 rounds. So, I'd like to see somebody take a chance on Gallagher and see what he's able to produce, with a little bit of a push from, one of the NHL clubs.
And Peter, no pressure, but you got the last one here in this category. Who's your guy you want to give a little shout out to?
Yeah, no pressure at all. I'm going to stick with the U.S. national U18 team and Dylan Duke, who is now ranked 2nd in team scoring behind Sasha Pastujov with 36, and he's tied with goals with Pastujov with 20. He's got a real powerful shot. He's got a real knack for finding the offensive lanes and just making amazing. Just I'm just in shock and awe how well he's played at this point. He's really someone that's really caught my eye in terms of offensive production. And I just hope that, maybe he's going to possibly, for me, he came out of nowhere. I didn't really start watching him until recently. And I'm just in absolute awe at what he can do with his shot, with his vision, with his skill set. I'm really thinking that maybe I had him low on my list. Again, probably another riser next time around, but he's someone that I think could be a really talented goal scorer at some point.
All right, those are definitely names we are going to keep an eye out for. As I said, we're going to save this clip, and then maybe a couple years from now, we can look back at it and say, boy, we were smart, or what the heck were you thinking? So that's going to wrap up our draft discussion for this day. As I said, hopefully we're going to be doing more of these as we get closer to the draft. We still got, 5 months until the draft. So we got a lot of things that can change between now and then. And I look forward to getting back together with Matthew, Peter, and Andrew to discuss more draft. Be sure you're following them on Twitter, and you can keep up to date with all their rankings as they're prepping for a new batch to come out soon. You can follow me as well. You can get your prospect news and rumors. I tend to focus more on guys who've already been drafted, but there's always a lot of fun stuff there as well. Follow the Hockey Writers on Twitter, like the Facebook page and YouTube, please, so you never miss another episode. And thank you for watching, and thank you for reading, because if you weren't doing either of those things, none of these things would be possible. We'd have to go get real jobs, and none of us want to do that. So thank you so much for participating, and I look forward to chatting with you guys again soon. Thank you guys for joining me, and everybody have a good day or night, depending on when you're watching this, and we'll catch you later.
Absolutely, Greg. Stay safe, bud.
Take care, guys.
All right. Thank you.